Hello YouTube, today we're going to be talking about 1110 of One Piece as it did drop today. Drop of course. I've got my handy dandy notebook. I'll be in the car today because weather's a little bit gloomy, kind of can see behind me. Seems as though with the Gorosei's arrival in chapter 1110 of One Piece, they've also arrived here and have brought their storms with them. But I don't need to talk about this storm, let's talk about the storm that's more happening in One Piece. Though not an actual physical storm, more of just a storm of just randomness. Because so much is happening, but not a whole lot of additional details, just more of what we already had in bigger forms. So 1110, titled Planetfall, shows us the 5 Gorosei in their full monster forms, which, a very fitting title for it being Planetfall as they are named after the planets. But before we get into that, we get to see a little bit of the, kind of what has been happening on our side, which was seeing, the Frankie and Bonnie, as well as one of the other Vegapunks, had been escorted by the Giants to their ship on, I believe it was like the northeast side of the island. They get over there and they're kind of seeing like as this weird aura is appearing, the black clouds and lightning are appearing. We also see that other Giants and some pacifistas are continuing their assault on the Marines, destroying their ships on the coast, and just kind of all in all just keeping them away so that it can be easier for the Straw Hats to get out. But as that, we get to see the 5 Gorosei appear with a cool looking kind of a summoning circle with them on the previous area back in the Morijois area. So it's very interesting to know that they have summoning circles, so it kind of does help my theory of them being demons, especially the fact that when we get to see them in their monster forms, it doesn't say that they ate a fruit to do that. It just says that they are, it says Saint Saturn the Gyuki. It does not say Saint Saturn fruit, blah 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 no mi gyuki or something like that. How we see, all of our things being, the meta no mi, gomo gomo no mi. It isn't phrased like that. It just says that he is Saturn the Gyuki, Mars the Itsumade. Let me explain what these mean. Saturn the Gyuki being the Ox Ogre. Something that you might know Gyuki from is Naruto. The 8-tailed beast is a Gyuki, basically being a yokai that has the upper half or head of a bull, having seeing the distinctive horns on both Saturn and on the 8-tailed. I was gonna say fox. He's not a fox. The 8-tailed beast, and then the bottom of miscellaneous things. Usually it's spider, octopus, and a few other things, but those are the main ones, and spider is a very common one as seen in depictions, and if you see the bottom of this chapter, you'll be able to see a few more kind of like depiction things describing them, but I'll also go over those at some point just to have a general understanding of what all of these yokai are, and what they could potentially mean for their characters later on as we get to see more and more of them. So then we get to see Mars, who is an Itsumade. Itsumade is a giant, eerie bird. He is just a massive creature. Really cool to look at. You have Workeri, who is a Hoki, or however you pronounce it. I'm definitely mispronouncing these. I'm not fluent in the languages. I'm barely fluent in English, but so sorry for any mispronunciations. Workeri is a Hoki, which is a large boar-like yokai from Chinese folklore, so a very interesting thing there. Nusura is a Bokotsu, which is a large skeletal horse-type creature who seemingly has abilities of ice, as we see later on. And then Jupiter is a sandworm, which very interesting to note that he's a sandworm and not like the other 4 who are all typical yokai, in Chinese or Japanese mythology. He's just a sandworm, which, as it describes, is something similar to that we've seen in Dune. So it's an interesting note that the people who, for a while, we've been speculating that Jupiter would be the one who would sort of betray the 5 Gorosei, who would, not exactly help them the entire time, who may be on our side at some point just because of what we know of Jupiter from Roman mythology. So potentially, him betraying because Jupiter being the equivalent of Zeus being the one who overthrew the old Titans and stuff like that. So potentially Jupiter not being a yokai and not being a demon in the other sense that the other 4 are could have something to do with the fact that he is completely different than them and he actually will be willing to trade to become, on our side or something like that. After that, we also get to see in a beautiful 2-page, which we haven't seen in a long time, as Oda doesn't do a whole lot of them, but when he does it beautifully, a 2-page spread of the 5 Gorosei in their monster forms in front of a tiny, tiny Luffy, just shows the size difference, and we get to see them in his reaction of, oh god, monsters. And it's very interesting, and I will actually refer to them in their monster forms, because it is actually unknown, because it doesn't actually specifically say that they have the devil fruit of the Gyoki, the Itsumade, and so on and so on. It specifically just says Saint Saturn, the Gyoki, Mars, the Itsumade, their full names, right? But it doesn't say that they ate a fruit to do that, which I have done a theory saying that perhaps they weren't human to start with, and they were actually demons brought by Emu who were given human fruits, and that's the reason why they wouldn't have, be saying the devil fruit is the Gyuki, because naturally that's what they were. They were those originally, and just have human fruits to have the human form. So calling them that their full transformation may not be true just yet. So I'm going to keep on this until we are confirmed that they are devil fruits and not just the human fruit and they are demons originally or anything like that. But we will see, because plenty of stuff to be revealed. After that, we get to see Nuzuro, who is the skeletal horse one. He starts dashing off at extreme speeds, and he has a sword that he is slashing through the pacifista with, except instead of fully cutting them in half, he has an ability similar to Brook's ice type abilities, where when he slashes through them, you see the line of where the cut would be, but instead of, a slow falling down type of thing, it is just frozen. And as a marine doctor later kind of looks at one, he says that they are just paralyzed, that the ice is paralyzing them. So it also doesn't seem like he's trying to destroy them, because he probably wants to continue using them at some point, maybe get rid of the whole Bonnie being the number one person, so that you can continue having these extremely powerful people on your side, controlling, under your control now, without Bonnie being able to have them. So don't want to destroy government property in case we can fix them, and use them later for our side, right? So that's presumably the reason why he isn't just outright crushing them or something, and he's just paralyzing them. And then we also get to see Mars fly on up into the air, who is the giant bird one, and he then immediately dives in at the Labostratum, which is where Usopp, Nami, and where the message is being originated from that Vegapunk is trying to put out. So he goes up to attack it, and he hits the barrier. There is no follow-up on it, so we don't know if he got in, if the barrier was damaged, how much he got damaged, or anything like that. We'll have to wait until next time. But it is interesting to see that. We also get to see Jupiter, the sandworm. He burrows underground, as that's kind of a very typical thing for sandworms to do. And as he's burrowing, we get a little bit of a break as we see some other stuff. So I'll get back to him later. During all this, Sanji is running. He's fleeing with Vegapunk as he was told to in the last chapter, and he is now calling out to Nami and Usopp. He has this transponder saying, hey, you guys need to get out of here. There's a giant monster. Your main priority needs to be to flee. You need to run now. So he's trying to get to them, and then, they got the phone. They're saying, hey, all right, we're good. We'll get out of here. They stopped the ship with Usopp using one of his plant stars, created it seemed to be like a bamboo wall of sorts, which stopped the ship. And then Jinbei is saying all right, we gotta get out of here. I'll get Zoro. I'll even drag him away. If he's still fighting, I'll drag him away because we gotta get out of here. So when he gets there and he sees him, Sanji is still on the phone, still on the transponder snail. So, so Jinbei basically just says all right, I'm there. I can see him. He's still fighting. Lucci brings up an interesting point saying, oh, aren't you at all kind of curious about what this, strong hockey signature is? This all of a sudden, this presence of such powerful hockey, which is the Gorosei, which I don't know if Lucci knows that that's what the hockey feeling is, or if he's just also curious by this sudden feeling of 5, of this powerful hockey, but presumably he would just because of his position. But Zoro, not really caring about it, he just shrugs, but then he hears Sanji over the transponder snail basically saying, Ma said you're still fighting, you're slow, you're gonna leave us behind, what a burden. And Zoro overhears it, irritated, dodges a few of Lucci's attacks, and then uses what I originally said in TikTok as Havana Hunt. It actually is Hahava Hunt, which, sorry about that, reading is not my specialty. It is Hahava Hunt, Spotted Leopard, which is basically, Hahava is a term in Buddhism. It is the coldest point of hell in that for them. So, continuing with his whole thing of the Buddhism and attacks in that theme. Then Spotted Leopard because he's fighting Lucci. He actually, I think the name was Mara, it says, for Spotted. He basically just changed the name because of who he was fighting. He changed it to kind of make fun of Lucci, be like, here's your cool attack. I can do it too, but better, in my own style. So he defeats Lucci, and presumably him and Jinbei will now be making their way back. Although it is unknown if they're going to be grabbing Lucci yet because we didn't get to see the ending of that. So perhaps they'll actually want to take Lucci with them, or somehow they'll get Lucci onto the ship because, as I've been saying, I don't think Lucci is going to stay on the Marines for too much longer, just because of all the things that are happening. Same with Admiral Kizaru, but we don't get to see him in this chapter, so don't really need to mention him other than that. We then get to finish the chapter off with, finally Jupiter has come out of the ground and he's burrowed up and he's about to eat Luffy. He's in his mouth when all of a sudden Dory and Bragi appear to hit him with an attack, which The name is Sawing Sun, or Child of the Sun, as it is phrased in there, to continue their conversation about how Luffy should not be in darkness like that because, he is the sun god and all that. So they're basically saying like, hey, you shouldn't be in, in this type of darkness. They swing in with their attack, and either he gets coughed up from how powerful an attack it was, just coughed up like that, or because, as we've seen with Saturn, and when he's in his full transformation, they can seemingly take a whole lot of damage, even having a hole ripped open in them, and then it'll just heal up. So potentially the attack cut him in half, and that's how Luffy got out, and he'll just heal it back up. It's hard to tell just because there's no motion, and the coloring is all just like this kind of amorphous blackish blur, as we've been seeing. I'm sure with color it'll look a whole lot better, but this point all just been ink. So that's the ending of the chapter. It's really good. We also get to see the giants. They say, oh, we wanted to see you, so we stopped waiting. We'll come get you now. So Luffy has been reunited with Dory and Bragi, and that's the ending of 1110. I also just want to bring up just some interesting notes. The main one is with Jupiter and on his continuing with how odd it is for his potential chance of betrayal. If you look at his design, he has a X on his forehead, which would probably be because of how often he has to hit the ground and burrow in. But is also a very similar appearance of that X on the forehead area, and just kind of his general design and coloring is very similar of Laboon, the whale from way back in the day with Reverse Mountain and with Brooks' crew. It just had that oddity of the kind of simplicity design, the eyes, and just the X on the forehead. I'm not saying that they're connected in some way, but it is an interesting appearance that they have such a very similar design in their simplicity and their shape. And then they also have just the same style of, damage of, presumably because he has to keep bashing his head onto something because he keeps burrowing into stuff, he has a scar in the same way. So I just thought that was interesting. I don't think I have anything else. I will definitely be talking more about the Gorosei and the Yokai and all their explanations and any other theories I have later on in the week, and more stuff on TikTok, so check it out there if you want to see more short form things and quicker pace things that come out more often than once every couple of days. But look out for another video, hopefully sometime, I was gonna say this week, but it'll be next week, sometime about Dragon. It's gonna be about potential on his maybe being a mythical, maybe he's a weapon. Debatable, we won't know yet, but I do have a theory on it, so I hope you stick around for that, and I hope you stick around for everything else I do, because I'm going to be keeping up with this, keeping up on TikTok, and just doing everything I can to, I don't know, just have fun on the internet, I guess. So stick around, like, subscribe, comment, tell me what you like and what you didn't like, so I can improve upon it. Until next time, bye guys.